What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. On today's show, the Golden Knights won a game in a shootout. Unbelievable. And they have Carter Hart to thank for it. Also, unbelievable. The A's ballpark is going to be just fine, says A's owner John Fisher, and UNLV officially had the best quarterback in the Mountain West in Anthony Calandria. Today's show is brought to you by Arnold Nightly. Arnold has been listening to me since I was on a show called Coach's Corner with Jim Bola over on KDON. It's the first show that I started doing when I moved here to Las Vegas. Big shout out to Arnold. I really appreciate how much he has been following and listening to me throughout my career here in Vegas. And if you want to sponsor the show, an actual business, or if you're just like Arnold and like, yeah, that'd be great. Email me, technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. I've said it before. You got $20, you got $5, whatever it is. You can send it to me. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. We'll have some fun with it. Here we go. The Golden Knights have struggled in overtime. They have struggled in shootouts this year. It's not been great for them. 7 straight losses going into last night beyond regulation. And guess what? They got to win. Bruce Cassidy joked on Monday that he hoped they'd just win in overtime so he'd stop getting questions about it because they had worked on 3-on-3 in practice on Monday. They technically didn't win in overtime. They won in a shootout. But Carter Hart was their best player during overtime. Chicago dominated that overtime. The scoring chances were 6-2. Both Golden Knights scoring chances were transition chances, one-and-done transition chances, and those were the only 2 shots on goal that they had in the entirety of overtime. The total shots, they only had 3 total shots. 1 missed the net, and 2 were on those chances there. Chicago had 13 shots in that overtime period. So I don't think their overtime problems are fixed, but they didn't lose, which means Carter Hart won in his return to the NHL in a shootout, and he was good in the shootout as well. But overall, was Carter Hart good in that game? He got sniped on 2 goals into the corner that I think you'll look at and say, all right, not really on the goalie there. Connor Bedard had an incredible goal on one of them. He had a pretty bad misplay that we'll get to in depth in a minute that helped Chicago score their second goal of the game. If you look at the stats from this one, it's like the most average game possible. He had a .900 save percentage, and his goals saved above average was negative 0.1. It was 2.9 expected goals for Chicago in that game, and they scored 3. That's about as average as you can actually be as a goalie statistically. The interesting part to me is that if you look at that game in different segments, Golden Knights, their penalty kill was very good. Like, they didn't need Carter Hart to be the best player, to be the best penalty kill or anything like that. The penalty kill was actually very good last night. But at 5-on-5, they kept giving up transition chances. They kept giving up passes through the neutral zone that set up 2-on-1s or 1-on-1s, or somehow the defenseman gets split by one guy. That's where they kind of needed Carter Hart to step up, and he was pretty good in those scenarios. So a weird game, and then they weren't good in overtime, and he was good in overtime. A very sort of weird game where the Golden Knights weren't really bad all over the place, but had big breakdown type of moments, and Carter Hart had to help them out. Now, the interesting thing, if you look at the team overall, the goaltending overall this year, we've seen 3 different guys, now 4 with Carter Hart. Adin Hill, it was only 5 games, but he was below average. His numbers weren't very good through those 5 games before his injury. We saw Carl Lindbaum finally got his first win. He played 7 games, but he was overall bad. Akira Schmid, who's played the most, has been pretty average. His save percentage is .896, and his goals saved above average is negative 0.2 on the season, so he's just a hair below average overall. That's kind of what you're getting out of Akira Schmid. Anything better than that, I think, would be a pleasant surprise. So if Hart comes in, and if Hart is just an average goaltender, that's all he is, one, that'll be a huge improvement on the Carl Lindbaum games or minutes this year. But also it'll be slightly better than Akira Schmid, and then we just have to see what actually happens once Aiden Hill is healthy. How well Carter Hart plays and Schmid will go a long way in determining what they have to do at that position whenever Hill does come back from injury. But that's a problem down the line. And who knows, a week from now, we might be talking about Carter Hart being awesome and they can't lose, or Carter Hart's terrible. And oh my God, this guy doesn't help them at all. It's one game. We'll see what actually happens. But I think a sort of average, maybe hair below average performance from Carter Hart is completely realistic, right? If we're talking about expectations, that seems completely realistic for the rest of this season. Now, I do want to talk about fan reaction. I spent some time on it yesterday, kind of questioning what would this look like. Very little negative reaction, apparently. Senbin.Vegas, Ken tweeted out some images of fans with encouraging signs on the glass before the game. It didn't sound like there were any boos when he was announced either. Sometimes that's a hard thing to gauge, but it didn't sound like there were boos. Certainly wasn't the overwhelming sentiment to boo there. So we didn't have that much negative reaction. We did have at least one anti-Carter Hart Vegas fan with signs on the glass, but that appears to be it. Just one from what we've seen. Vegas fans didn't seem to do much, if at all, to protest or show any sort of displeasure with Carter Hart being on this team and now playing for this team. And I think going forward, that's what we're gonna get. I think the majority of Golden Knights fans are gonna fall into two camps. Either one, kind of not caring, just being like, this is a sports team. I'm here to cheer for the sports team, whatever. Carter Hart's the goalie. And then two will be the people that defend Carter Hart. I think those are going to be the two main camps. And what you're going to have, at least online and then in theory, if you go to road games, is I think the majority of opponents' fans are going to be very heavily anti-Carter Hart. I think we're going to see it in arenas when he plays or even just when he's on the bench. But I also think you're going to see that especially online. And if you're the Carter Hart defender, you're probably going to find yourselves in a lot of arguments about Carter Hart with other teams' fans, or you might just end up reading them. I think that's what we're going to see because it is polarizing that he's back in the NHL. And what we tend to do in sports, it's very easy. Defend your own team, criticize the others. When your team does something that's bad, it's not that bad, actually. It's my favorite team, and this is why it's defendable, and this is why it's okay. When somebody else does it, it's the worst thing anybody's ever done. It's the worst team in the world. So I think that's what we're going to see going forward. Mostly Golden Knights fans either not caring or supportive, and other teams' fans highly, highly critical. Now, I did want to get to the second goal that Chicago scored last night, because I don't honestly know who was the worst offender on this play. And we've got three. Technically, one is after the play, but we've got three. First is Zach Whitecloud, who had a miserable turnover. He's trying to skate the puck out of the defensive zone, goes to make a pass, and it's just straight into a skate of a Blackhawk, and the puck bounces, drops right back into the slot in the offensive zone. Like the worst possible turnover you can have. And then Carter Hart makes the choice that he's going to leave the crease and come play the puck out near the hash marks, gets to it, but his clearance is blocked, and all of a sudden this is danger time, and they're going to give up a goal. And then the third one is after the play. Bruce Cassidy challenged this one for offside, and it wasn't even close. He ends up giving Chicago a power play on this one. It quickly went away because they took a penalty and it was 4-on-4, but you don't know that when you challenge it. All three of those were bad. I'm genuinely surprised Cassidy challenged that. Like they're usually, like Golden Knights normally, they challenge a call. I feel like they win it. For the most part, I'm like, oh, if they challenged it, this is not going to count. We got like 1.5 replays on the television broadcast, and it was over. It was one of the quickest reviews that you're going to see because it was such a bad challenge. I'm shocked that Cassidy challenged that. But I think of the three, in all honesty, Carter Hart's mistake was the least bad. Like it was the best because White Cloud's turnover is just hilariously bad. Cassidy's challenge is dumbfounding. And Carter Hart, I actually don't think he made the wrong decision to try to go get that puck. He just didn't clear it, right? The idea was fine. The execution was bad. So I actually think that it was fine. It wasn't that big of a deal that Carter Hart went after that one. And of all the things to blame there, all the things that went wrong there, his wasn't actually the worst. His coach and his defensemen were a little bit worse instead. Something else interesting from last night, that Bruce Cassidy made another decision with the lineup. He brought Brandon Saad back in. Saad and Riley Smith, they were healthy scratches last game. Smith, still a healthy scratch, still benched. But Saad came back in, Alex Holtz out, and Saad played with Hertl and Dorofeyev on that familiar line again. Is it familiar? It was only a post-trade deadline line, and then in the playoffs, we had injuries. So maybe not even that familiar, but a little familiar. They were not bad, but also not good last night either. Like they did give up a goal. Saad and Dorofeyev combined to lose the puck, and they gave up, I think it was a 3-on-2 going the other way. They gave up Chicago's first goal, but they created 8 scoring chances, which is the most of any single line last night for Vegas. But again, they had an 80% offensive zone faceoff start or rate. They get the most offensive zone faceoffs. That's just the way Cassidy uses that line. So they should pretty much always have a skewed offensive stat type of night because they get to start closest to the other team's net. So I don't know that you're going to get a lot from Saad there. If he's on that line for the rest of the season, another 50, 60 games, there's going to be some points that Saad puts up just because you're playing with Hertl and Dorofeyev. There should be, but it feels like he's a replaceable cog. And if it's Holtz or if they put Smith on the left there, like whatever it is, like you're going to get some point production there. I don't think Smith is sort of any sort of make or break or highlight or anything. I think he's just a guy that's on the line there. I think that's all that is at the end of the day. But the player I'm actually interested most on that line is not Saad or Holtz coming in and out. Pavel Dorofeyev, he has gone 16 games without a 5-on-5 goal. He does have a couple of power play goals in that stretch, but at 5-on-5, 16 games since he last scored. And if you look at it just from a shots standpoint, in these 16 games, he's got exactly 16 shots on goal at 5-on-5, 1 a game. Before that, he was averaging 2.1 shots on goal. So he's not even just getting the shots. And that sort of plays out as well for his shot attempts and his individual scoring chances and stuff like that. It's all down in these 16 games at 5-on-5 compared to what it was before. And Pavel Dorofeyev is a goal scorer. It's 46 goals last year and then the first fourth or so of this season. Obviously good. Goals are good. And you're not going to take guys out of the lineup that score goals, especially if goal scoring is a problem for your team, which we saw it in the playoffs and we've seen it at times so far this year. Goal scoring can be an issue here. But how valuable is Dorofeyev if he's not scoring at 5-on-5? I think that's the real question there. I don't know that there's a player to come in and take his spot. I don't know that you're saying, okay, we'll put Riley Smith in. And I don't know if you're going to get much else because scoring on the power play might be more than Riley Smith gives you at all. But how much value is there in Pavel Dorofeyev if he's not giving you goals at 5-on-5? Because again, him and Hertl, they get all the offensive zone faceoffs. Like their job at 5-on-5 is to score. Like that's it. They're put in those situations to score. They're not asked to defend or anything like that. They usually get the softer matchups. Like they got to score goals. And if he's not doing that on 5-on-5, how much value is there in the player that, okay, these a good one-time shot on the power play, right? There's value in that more than probably what Riley Smith has given you this year, but how much? And that's probably a bigger question for after the season when we're talking about a Pavel Dorofeyev contract and everything. The goals are there, but how much of it is just power play wise this season? So that's an interesting line to sort of look at and what happens the rest of the way with Dorofeyev. When does that 5-on-5 goal scoring come back and how much do you actually get? So the Golden Knights, they win last night. They win in a shootout, which somehow feels better than if they had just won in regulation because they did something that they seemingly haven't been able to do for the majority of the year. So they got to win. There was one other hockey story I wanted to get to. and it's looking ahead to the Olympics. The Athletic had a story about problems with hockey taking place at the Olympics. Winter Olympics are coming in a couple of months. So it's going to be in Italy. And supposedly hockey is going to be played in Milan. But they're building an arena for it. And the ice rink that they're building is going to be smaller than originally planned. It's smaller than an NHL sheet of ice. It's apparently, according to the Athletic, lengthwise 3 to 4 feet shorter, widthwise a little less than a foot, but still shorter. And the issue here, I don't know that you look at it and say, okay, we're talking about 4 total feet. I don't know that you look at it and say that that's the biggest issue, but there was an agreement between the NHL, the NHLPA, and the Olympic Committee that to send NHL players to the Olympics, they were going to play on NHL standard ice. That it was going to be the same size as an NHL rink. And that's not happening now. The bigger question to me is, we're a couple of months away from the Olympics starting, and how did the ice size just get smaller? Was it always going to be smaller and they've been lying this entire time? That to me is the bigger question. And it's not even the biggest problem in the story from The Athletic. The arena still isn't done being built. This is from the story in The Athletic. One source, well-versed on the building status, said that organizers needed a, quote, big bomb, not just a fire lit under them with the clock ticking loudly. Are they going to finish the arena in time for the Olympics? I mean, they have to, right? The IOC said that it's going to be done in mid-December. That's like a week away, 2 weeks away. The Olympics are in February. We're very close to the Olympics starting, and the arena they're going to play hockey in isn't done yet. There was a detail in there from The Athletic that at one point there was a backup plan that they would play some games at an arena in Switzerland if they had to. But according to that story, that is no longer a plan B, and that there isn't a plan B, which maybe we should take as a good sign that the arena will be done in Milan and we'll have Olympic hockey. But it's just, how do you have an arena that's not built and the ice rink has gotten smaller? I mean, they're still building it, just make it bigger. 2 months before the Olympics starts, this is a big question. Is this why the United States is going to start hosting everything, just because we have the arenas and stadiums to do it? I guess we're apparently going to get Copa America again. We might be getting another World Cup really soon just because of all of that. And now it's time for Bischoff's Briefs. You can sponsor Bischoff's Briefs. Fun logo, full screen graphic right there. I'll tell everybody how great your business is. Just let me know. technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. That's the email. Send me one. We'll figure it out. We'll have a lot of fun. It'll be great. I'll tell everybody how much I love you. But starting Bischoff's Briefs with the soon-to-be Las Vegas A's, John Fisher, the owner of the A's. He talked yesterday, and from Nick Walter's tweet, Fisher said, "I'd like to say we're ahead of schedule, because I actually think we are a little bit. I like to be conservative about where we are, but we're on time. We're on budget. The ballpark is supposed to open in 2028, so that's the timeline there. But I think it's more interesting that he said that we're on budget than the actual timeline. I'd be surprised if construction isn't done on time. But the price of the ballpark, when he says budget, the price of the ballpark has gone up 3 times, at least publicly, in about an 18-month span. And the last one was around $2 billion, maybe over $2 billion. It wasn't even a firm number, right? We're just floating around the $2 billion mark. So when John Fisher says, we're on budget, what is the budget? Have they finalized the number? Because that's been a big talking point, is what's the finalized number for the cost of this ballpark? The other part of sort of the budget is the investment side. So John Fisher's been trying to get investors for, hell, it might be 2 years now at this point. And what he's got for this ballpark. He got $350 million in public funding from us. Congratulations, A's. He got $175 million from Aramark, the concessionaire company. I can't remember the exact amount or how much of that is specifically supposed to go towards the ballpark, but there is an investment there from the concessionaire that's going to the ballpark. A very weird contract that they got signed that normally doesn't happen with the concessionaire. And then he also got an investment of $70 million from a group with Chanho Park and Suga from BTS. So there's some there. But if you add all that up, we're not getting anywhere close to $2 billion. We're not even getting close to $1 billion if you add that up. There's also been stories that he was trying to sell his MLS team, the San Jose Earthquakes. In theory, that would be to raise money for the ballpark. That's still, I think, a question. How much does he need an outside investment to come in? And has he gotten that? Is he close to getting that? I don't know. We haven't really gotten an update on that recently, but he said they're on budget. We just don't really know what that means. What's the actual dollar amount? And is there other investment coming into this? Because again, I'd be shocked if this ballpark's not done by 2028 if the money's there, right? Like the construction part of it, I don't think that's really a question. It's more about the money part. And is Fisher just ripping off, roughly $1.3 billion of his own money, of Gap's stock, whatever it is? That, I think, is really the question here for John Fisher and the ballpark, because those are things we don't actually know, haven't gotten really concrete answers on. Also at that ballpark, or on that ballpark, the A's have at the Uncommons here in Vegas now this ballpark experience that's now open. You can go see a model of the ballpark. It actually looks pretty cool. The roof sort of lifts off and you can see inside there. I guess they have some renderings. They have some other stuff. There's a big wooden elephant thing. But Mick Akers of the Review-Journal yesterday tweeted out a picture of one of the renderings. And this rendering was supposed to be you're standing at home plate and you're looking out sort of the left center field because they're going to have this big open window where you can see the strip. We'll see if they open it, unlike the Raiders, who never open at Allegiant Stadium. But Mick Akers tweets out this picture, and in this picture, the big video boards that are in the outfield for fans to look at is from a game in Houston and of Astros fans, with the most prominent part being an image of a Jose Altuve jersey. Why in these renderings is a Jose Altuve jersey the most prominent part? I don't know. I actually think that image might be from Nick Kurt's 4-homer game, because he did that in Houston, and the images of fans in the Crawford boxes, the short porch in left field in Houston, it might actually be from an A's highlight, but you still have this rendering of an A's ballpark, and Jose Altuve is the name, not an actual A's player. And it's a funny follow-up, because if you remember when the A's moved to Sacramento, John Fisher went and did a press conference with the mayor of Sacramento, and he talked about how cool it was going to be to see players like Aaron Judge hit home runs at this ballpark. The A's don't spend a bunch of money. Part of the allure is going to be, hey, come watch other teams play. That's going to be how they actually succeed in Vegas, I think, is getting people to come watch Aaron Judge play. But not ideal for the owner to have. Now we have two moments of this with the A's being like, hey, it's Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve. Don't worry about our players. So there's your A's update in December. They're not even going to be here till 2028. And I got a December 2025 update for you on the A's. On the Raiders. The Raiders released Greg Joseph from the practice squad yesterday. Yes, we are talking about a kicker getting released from a practice squad, because 4 weeks ago, Daniel Carlson, the Raiders' actual kicker, he was 12 of 16 on field goals. And the Raiders had just lost a game to Denver 10-7, where Carlson had missed a 48-yard field goal in the fourth quarter. Denver got the ball back, ran the clock out. Raiders never got it again, and they lose that game. And the Raiders bring in Greg Joseph to the practice squad, and Pete Carroll used the word competition. Well, since Greg Joseph came in as competition, Daniel Carlson is 4 of 5 on field goals and 4 of 4 on PATs, which sounds solid, except he hasn't attempted a field goal over 50 yards in that time span, and he's 2 of 3 on kicks over 40 yards in that time span. So not that good. He's made his PATs and he's made his short field goals. For the season, Carlson is just 3 of 6 on 50-plus yarders this year. Not a big sample size, but he's also only 4 of 6 on 40-plus yard field goals. So we're talking, 9 field goals there. 12 field goals there of significant distance. I say significant, like 40 yards is long. But if you look at kickers this year from 40-plus and 50-plus, there's only 2 you can say that are definitively worse than Carlson. It's Blake Grupe and Brandon McManus. McManus has had some injuries. Grupe's just been bad. There are other kickers that sort of have similar numbers to Carlson, guys that maybe are a little bit worse or a little bit better, but we're looking at like a bottom 10 kicker in the NFL, maybe bottom 5 in Daniel Carlson. And the last 3 games haven't proven otherwise, but the Raiders have said goodbye to Greg Joseph. So I guess they're convinced now. I don't know. Maybe they're going to sign a new kicker and we'll find that out later this week. But Daniel Carlson's in the last year of his contract. He's not that high on the kicker pay scale. He's only 12th in sort of average pay. But I have to imagine Raiders are moving on from Daniel Carlson in the offseason. He might genuinely be kicking for his job here in December. Like, that might be a real thing because he needs a new contract if he's going to be the kicker here next year. But he hasn't been very good. It's been a big step back this year for Daniel Carlson. So it wouldn't be surprising at all to see the Raiders with a new kicker next season, unless Daniel Carlson sort of turns it around here. Another fun Raiders stat for you. Ben Baldwin. He's got an algorithm for 4th down decisions. Basically, this is one of those win probability things that coaches actually use to decide if they should go for it on 4th downs. He's got a public one. And this season, the Raiders go for it on 4th down or don't go for it on 4th down, right? They make the decision, go or not go, correct more than anybody else in the league, according to Ben Baldwin's algorithm. Almost 90% of the time on 4th downs, they're making the right choice to go or not go, and it's the best in the league. Now, I haven't looked any of this up, but my first thought was I feel like most of the Raiders' big 4th down decisions have been when they're losing in the second half, which makes it a lot easier to just go for it because we're down 13 in the 4th quarter and it's 4th and 3. Like, yeah, we're going to go for this. So I feel like a lot of their decisions have been sort of easier to make because it's been late in games that they're losing. I don't have anything to back that up. That's just my guess. I should probably go actually look that up. The other problem on this, the Raiders are second to last in 4th down conversion rate this year, the 38%. Only the Saints are worse. Now, I want to be clear. The Raiders should still be going for it. It's still the right decision to go for it. The chance of you not getting it is baked into those decisions to go or not go, those algorithms saying you should go or not go. So they're still making the right choices, even though the offense is bad. So shout out to Ryan Paganetti, who is the game management coach this year, and to Pete Carroll for actually making these good 4th down decisions. Because last year, Antonio Pierce, Raiders were the worst under Antonio Pierce when it came to these decisions. He was lost, somehow made the wrong choice all the time. But maybe that's fixed at this point. It might actually be fixed at this point. So the Raiders are doing something right in a season where everything has gone wrong. Also in the NFL, I enjoyed this story. Maybe I didn't enjoy it because it's not a good thing for consumers. But NFL Red Zone had 16 commercials on Sunday. Sports Business Journal did a story on this. 16 commercials. Red Zone has long been the home of 7 hours of commercial-free football. That was the most popular tagline in all of NFL broadcasting for like a decade. But now there are commercials. And it's what you have to do to make more money. They were already making money on it. People had to buy it, but it's what you got to do to make money. But here's the real problem, I think. One, it's been branded for so long as 7 hours of commercial-free football. So that's not great that we're now watching commercials. But at the beginning of the year, we knew this. At the beginning of the year, we were told they're going to put commercials in. Pro Football Talk had a story and reported that it was just going to be 4 15-second commercials. It's a minute's worth of commercials, by the way. And that's what it was going to be. 4 15-second commercials. Now we got 16 commercials. Now we're blowing way past that, right? We're not even close to this 1 minute of commercials. It's gotten out of hand. I shouldn't say out of hand, but it's exploded extremely quickly. And that's sort of problematic at the end of the day. Now, please sponsor me, and I will have a commercial for everybody else to watch. I would love that. Also, this is a fun story for you. Fans threw eggs at the home of the Eagles offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo. His house was vandalized. The Morristown police say eggs were thrown at the house. The Eagles offense is very, very bad, even though Philly's still leading that division. I don't think we here in Vegas have had fans vandalizing any players or coaches' houses that have underperformed. I don't think we have. Maybe I missed that, but I don't think so. But I was really surprised here. Do people still egg houses? Do people still TP houses? Are we throwing toilet paper at houses? Like, are those two things too expensive now that we don't do that? I feel like, I don't know, maybe because I'm not in high school, I don't feel like I've seen a TP'd house or egged house anymore. Saw that before, but I don't think I've seen that. Is that still a thing that happens across the board in the United States, or eggs too expensive? Bird flu's done, right? Eggs shouldn't be that expensive anymore. But yeah, so if your offense isn't very good, apparently you can just go and egg the house of your offensive coordinator. Probably shouldn't do that. I don't think we've done that here in Vegas. We got good fans in Vegas. But that's it for Bischoff's Briefs. Again, if you want to sponsor it, let me know. Technically correct, vegas@gmail.com. Now, in the world of college football, first thing, Anthony Colandrea was named Mountain West Player of the Year. UNLV's quarterback had an incredible season. I'm not even sure we can actually do it justice with some stats, but I want to try from some different things I looked up. First one, just looking at the Mountain West, he had the highest quarterback rating in the conference. And the difference between Colandrea in first place and second place was bigger than the difference between second place and eighth place of the 13 qualified quarterbacks in the conference this year. So a huge gap between 1 and 2 when looking at quarterback rating. He also had the highest yards per attempt in the Mountain West, while also having the second highest completion percentage, which is an incredible combo because it means you're throwing the ball down the field while completing a lot of passes. And looking at his deep balls this year, 20th farthest average depth of target in all of college football this year. So of all of the quarterbacks that played, he was 20th in terms of throwing it deep this year. And only third deepest in the Mountain West, by the way, a couple of the quarterbacks who were chucking it down the field, just not as accurately or as efficiently as Colandrea. He was also, if you just go by PFF grades, 10th in all of college football this year, 10th in PFF grades. Now, that is not adjusted to opponent. That's just the flat out grade coming in there. So, if Anthony Colandrea was playing in the SEC, probably wouldn't be 10th, but a phenomenal season from Anthony Colandrea this year that I had somebody text me this and ask, like, can they afford to keep Anthony Colandrea? And generally speaking, you're going to lose your good players in the group of 5. It's going to happen. Like, it's the reality of it. You can keep some guys around, but for the most part, really good players are going to look to go up because there's going to be more money there. I actually, as good as Colandrea was, I actually think you should be optimistic about the offense and the quarterback position as long as Dan Mullen's the coach here, because this is what he does. This is what he's done for the majority of his career with quarterbacks. And so I think you're probably going to have a really productive quarterback next year, regardless of who it is. And as long as Dan Mullen's here, I think there's going to be productive quarterback play. Also, Jaden Thomas got named first team All Mountain West. Those are the only 2 UNLV players on first team All Mountain West, despite having an incredible offense the entire season. But Colandrea and Jaden Thomas both got recognized. Now, college football playoff rankings came out on Tuesday. First off, on the group of 5 side, Tulane is 20, North Texas is 24, and James Madison is 25. 3 group of 5 teams ranked there sort of at the back end, meaning the winner of Tulane and North Texas, because they play in the American Championship, the winner of that is almost certainly going to be in the playoff. James Madison is going to need Duke to upset Virginia to get in. We're going to get into tomorrow. Here's a tease for you for 24 hours. We're going to get into this tomorrow. UNLV's got a shot. UNLV's got a shot at the playoffs. It is not over for UNLV if you're hoping this team can go to the college football playoff. there's a path, and it's not the craziest path, right? It's possible. We will get into that tomorrow, mainly comparing them to Duke, but we'll get into that. The rest of this, if you look inside the top 10 of the college football playoff, one of the biggest talking points, Notre Dame stays ahead of Miami. And this one, I don't like this one, because both teams are 10-2. And I am on board with, hey, one team beat another team, but that doesn't mean they have to be ranked ahead of them, right? We all know this, right? We all understand this. Alabama beat Georgia, right? Georgia's still ahead of Alabama, right? Like, we know that just because you won head to head doesn't automatically mean you're going to be ranked ahead of a certain team. But in this scenario, both teams are 10-2, so the record's the same. And if you go through the metrics that the committee supposedly uses, some of the metrics, right? SP plus, Notre Dame is 5, they're ahead of Miami, but Miami's 9. If you look at FPI, Notre Dame's 3, again ahead of Miami, but Miami's 7. Game control and average win probability, Notre Dame's 5th on the year, Miami is 6th on the year, right behind them. And again, they're both 10-2, and their strength of schedules this year, Notre Dame's 42, Miami's 44. Their strength of schedules are almost identical, which means strength of record, Notre Dame's 13, Miami's 14. The metrics do say Notre Dame's better than Miami, but by this much. Just barely better. And I'm shocked that a team with a head-to-head win and the same record and very similar metrics is behind Notre Dame. I'm shocked by this. Like, why? Why is Miami there? Again, perfectly fine with a team being ahead of somebody they lost to, but it should be because there is overwhelming evidence that they're better. One way could be the record, right? A 10-2 team versus an 8-4 team. All right, we are going to put the 10-2 team ahead even though they lost. Or if you looked at the metrics and you said, all right, they're both 10-2 and Miami beat them, but Miami's ranked like 23rd in SP plus and 31 in game control, and their strength of schedule is significantly worse than Notre Dame's this year. Then okay, you'd be like, all right, the metrics say that Notre Dame is much better. But again, the metrics say Notre Dame is just a little bit better. It just seems wrong. Like, it just seems like the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing with a college football playoff committee and putting these teams in. Other thing I'm a little curious to see going into this weekend, does the committee punish teams for losing conference championship games? Didn't happen last year, right? SMU lost the ACC championship game. They did not get knocked out of the playoff. They stayed in the playoff over, by the way, Miami. They stayed in the playoff despite a conference championship loss. So big one is going to be Alabama because they're playing Georgia in the SEC title game. Alabama is 9th. If Alabama loses to Georgia, do they fall? Because right now, the top 10 teams are in the playoff, and then there will be 2 conference champions outside the top 10 that make it. So if you're sitting at 11, you're out. If you're sitting at 10, you're in. Alabama's at 9, so they've got a buffer there. But if they were to lose to Georgia, do they fall? And if BYU wins the Big 12 title, they come into the playoff from the outside, which means only the teams in the top 9 right now. Right now, it'd be Notre Dame that gets bumped out if BYU knocks out Texas Tech or beats Texas Tech. Texas Tech would stay in. But if Alabama loses to Georgia, do they fall behind Notre Dame? I'm going to guess no, unless it's something like 45-3. They get clobbered in that game, maybe. But if they lose a game by 7, I'm going to guess they don't fall, and Notre Dame is the team on the chopping block if BYU wins. Less stakes, but Ohio State and Indiana go into the Big Ten title game as the 1 and the 2 seeds. Are they 1 and 2 regardless of those results, right? Does a blowout loss knock one down? I can't imagine one would fall out of the top 4, but we did see Texas Tech take quite a steep fall for their first loss of the season. And then Georgia and Texas Tech. They're 3 and 4. They both play in conference championship games. If they lose, do they fall out of the top 4 and lose the bye? I'm going to guess Georgia would not fall out of the top 4, and I'm going to guess that Texas Tech would fall out of the top 4. Back to 5, maybe 6, but what it means is that Oregon sitting there at 5, and Oregon could get a bye for not playing this weekend while Texas Tech or Georgia loses and drops back a spot or 2. So Oregon could get rewarded for not going to the Big Ten title game while teams that are playing in their conference championship don't actually go. So college football playoff ranking, it's out. Again, tomorrow I'm going to get in to UNLV's shot here. There is a fun path, and I'm excited to talk about it. I hope it happens, because then we're going to get a few days before the rankings come out. We're going to get a few days of comparisons, and it's going to be the funniest possible comparison is going to be 8-5 Duke and UNLV. Those are the teams we might be comparing for a final playoff spot, which sounds stupid for a college football playoff that only puts 12 teams in, that those are the teams getting compared, but that might be the legitimate comparison. This has been Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. Thanks for tuning in.